Hello, everybody. I am Vicki James, and we are back with Thrive Hive Live, where we're covering 21 steps to launch your business. Let me pull those steps back up. We're getting to the point where I'm starting to lose track of how many are out there. But with the series, we started about 18 weeks ago looking at why are we starting a business and what kind of offers can we make? How do we start building our community and getting feedback, and then building the things such as our landing page and email list. And the things keep going on. We looked at our financials and service terms, not the funnest stuff ever, but stuff that's definitely critical when you're building a business. And now we're back into more fun things with marketing and your content strategy. So that's where we are today. And we're on the final stretch here. So we'll be looking at lead magnet next week, and then we get into some insurance and legal, and then finally winding up with kind of delegating and building out systems so that you're not doing everything yourself forever and always, because that's not why we start a business. All right, I will take this down. Again, I'm Vicki James, and this is Thrive Hive Live. If you are in the room, please drop your name, who you are, and what you're building in the comments. I'd love to see you. And if you're seeing this after the fact, welcome. Hopefully there's some good comments in there for you as well. And please feel free to drop any as you watch the video. And just some notes about Thrive Hive Live. So if you look at the description for the event, you'll find some links to, you can download this course workbook. You can learn more about the series, find out about our 45-day trial offer, or an assessment that really looks at those 21 steps and which of those do you maybe need a little bit more information on. So that's the point of the assessment. All right. And again, I love building community, and whether you're live with us now or watching after the fact, dropping some comments gives us a chance to get to know you and for you all to get to know each other. So that's what it is all about. Let me see. And I see Patrick is in the room. Thank you, kind sir, always showing up and having great things to say. I think with that, we're ready to get started. So I will launch the book. By the way, again, if you go to the description, you'll be able to download this workbook for yourself and kind of work through some of these concepts on your own. So that's my gift to you. But jumping in. So last week we talked about finding your channel, your primary channel for marketing. But now we have to talk about okay, so I know for me it's LinkedIn, for you it might be Instagram. Okay, so we got that picked out. But how do we know what to say and how to move this forward in a meaningful way? So that's really what this is about. And the leading question is, do you have a plan for how you're going to do content, or are you just going to wing it? Because honestly, when I first did this, I winged it for the first 3 or 4 months, and you'll hear how that turned out for me as we go on. So now that you have your channel, if you were following along with us in step 16, now it's time to think about what's your messaging. And really, we're going to be talking a lot about consistency. So consistency in showing up, and consistency in messaging to really get the most out of that. So whether you're starting fresh with your content or maybe just rethinking how you do it, you haven't thought about strategy before, you are in the right place. All right, so you have another LinkedIn user that I don't have a name attached, but welcome to the room. All right, so why strategy beats winging it? And I love this analogy that, starting your social media page without a strategy is kind of like, oh, I opened a store on the street and it opened the doors, and why aren't people coming in? Because they don't know what the point is yet. They don't know anything about you. They may be a little bit of some curiosity, but curiosity doesn't get very far other than a little poke in. So what we want to do is really present who you are and the value you bring so that they keep coming forward. Now, I talked about the spaghetti. I talk about this a lot. My first 3 or 4 months in, I was doing a carousel here, and a video there, and a post there, and daily this week and once that week. And I was watching, the metrics to see, what was working or what wasn't. But the truth was there was such a mix, I had no opportunity to really see what was working or what wasn't. Now, at some point, I realized I'm throwing spaghetti at a wall and nothing is sticking. I don't know what I'm doing. I know technically how to do these posts and that kind of thing, but how to make it actually all gel to be something that gets me noticed, in my case, out on LinkedIn, because that's the point. We're trying to build an audience, trying to build a community, and hopefully within that community, we're going to find some of our ideal clients or referrals to them. And so after months of that spaghetti on a wall, finally I'm like, put my hands up, I need help. And like my first major investment in the business was, I need a marketing strategist. So I went ahead and did some outreach, kind of got some information from a few different folks, and finally brought in right angle consulting to help me with my marketing strategy. And what a game changer that was. So if you have that opportunity, or if you're really stuck and maybe this workbook gets you a little bit closer, but you have more that you need to do, like investing in somebody who has been doing this for years can really go a long way. But what I learned through that process is that with a marketing strategy, now we can look at some timing consistency, some consistency in messaging, and a way to measure what's working. And one of the things that in my case we really looked at is, what is the core? What is the value? What is the thing that the person who may want to utilize my service, what is the first thing they're going to learn when they go to my web page or see my post, and being able to really drill in on that, because kind of being all over the board doesn't necessarily work. So, and when it comes to that content, the content can differ. I like to think of it as like this core theme that doesn't differ. So no matter whether you're talking about maybe something tactical, something strategic, the way something feels, the way to plan, it's still always centered around one core concept. So for Thrive Hive, that's that concept of building solo but never alone. And so how can I create posts that consistently send that message? And so whatever your business is, really finding like, what's that core that can stick your hat on and your words on, that's going to bring the consistency. Now, one of the things I did to help me with that is I ended up developing a persona. Ultimately, I developed 3, but we'll start with Frank. He was my first one. And this was back when I was really pushing the bookkeeping side of the business. And so I looked at all the people that I was already doing books for, or had been showing some interest in my services. And I just threw it all into ChatGPT and said, okay, here are the people that are kind of gravitating towards my service. Now let's put together a persona that kind of personifies everything of where they are. So they're brand new. They've been working in spreadsheets. They know it's not perfect, but they're afraid to spend money. They're not sure if they're getting themselves into trouble or what. Like, just really kind of wrap all of those things in, and then come up with the persona. And in my case, I named him Frank. And so what that allowed me to do was, when I'm thinking about that core message, so in that case, it was about financial clarity, but today it would be that, building solo but never alone. Now, whatever I post is really speaking to Frank with that message. And then that brings in the consistency of tone, of, thematic, really understanding who you are and what you deliver. And so, so we have some steps here if you want to try this for yourself. And it's really, think about the clients that you have or that you want. Try to understand what their motivation is, what kind of business do they have, where are they at in the business, what are their pain points, what are they trying to solve, what are they afraid of, and just kind of write down everything. And again, if you have real clients, that's great. If it's people that you've been talking to in sales calls, that can help too, or even just has you understand it best. And then once you have all this information together, ask AI, hey, build me a persona. And then that persona can help inform not only your strategy, but your actual messaging down the line. And then you can give them a name. And in the case of Frank, I'll go ahead and go to the next page. Frank has a face. And I also built one called Judy and another persona named Pedro. And they are my original 3 bookkeeping personas that really help me think about messaging and how to connect with the people that I'm trying to message to. Because with consistency, we'll talk more about timing. So, consistency and timing, but also consistency in the messaging. It's what's going to help people really understand what you're about, what your business is about. And I talk often through the series, the idea they have to know, like, and trust you before they'll become a client. And so having that consistent messaging is one way to get there. All right. So, and the final thing I want to say about Frank is now, whenever I draft a post, I can say, hey, will this resonate with Frank? Like, will Frank be, click in? Will he investigate more? Or is he going to fly by it because it's not capturing his attention? And that's a really good litmus test on the content that you're putting out there. All right, so that's the messaging side of things, trying to keep that consistency, keep that core. Now I want to talk about a couple frameworks on what to post, when, how, that kind of thing. And one thing a lot of new entrepreneurs make, myself included, is to start with your pitch. Like, come by my thing, I can solve your problem. And those are promotional posts. Like, go click on the thing, let's book the call, let's do that. Very promotional. And most people, unless they happen to be looking for your service, which is pretty, odds are against that, that person is going to find you. It does and can happen, but it's not kind of reaching critical mass that way. And so one of the frameworks that I got this through my marketing strategy, was to think about the type of content I was putting out and to make sure that there was balance. So what we landed on for me, and this might be different for you, or you might do research in your industry and see there's something else that works, that's fine. But for me, it was like, okay, let's stay 60% educational. So, what pains are out there and how can you solve it? 25% relational or community building. So just being honest, just showing up, building community, asking, questions, and bringing people in that way. And then as far as those promotional posts, keeping that to about 15%. So every once in a while, there's the, hey, go download my book or, book, schedule time with me. Make that a little less often, because what happens if it's always go do the thing that's going to pull you into my sales, kind of orbit, that's all they're going to hear. And they're going to be like, no, not for me. But if you're already engaged, if you're already showing them value through the education and showing your morals or your kind of your soul through that more personal and relationship building, now when they see the occasional something to click on, they're much more likely to click on it because they already know, like, and are starting to build trust with you. So just something to think about on that framework. Now, one thing you can do to see, well, how am I doing with this today, is take your last 10 posts, copy and paste the text of it and throw it into an AI agent and say, I want to rate each of these posts and tell me whether they're educational, whether they're community building, relational, or if they're promotional, and see what kind of results you get out of that. So this is one place that AI really excels, because it's not writing for you. It's just doing a little bit of analysis, unbiased analysis of what you've been doing to kind of help you frame where to move forward. All right, now the next thing. So now we know what to post. Okay, we're going to do some educational, we're going to do some relational, community building, we're going to do fewer promotional. But the hardest thing is getting that post read. And you may have heard about hooks at some point in your journey at this point. And that's the idea that whether it's a video or text or whatever, you have like less than 3 seconds to get somebody to really engage with your content, to read it, to watch if it's a video or that kind of thing. And so hooks are really important. And so I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this page so we can kind of get a feel for good hooks or not. And we have some examples here. One being, here are 5 tips for growing your LinkedIn audience. Okay, that sounds like every other hook on out on LinkedIn or anywhere else. But if I come back and say, I posted on LinkedIn for 3 months without a strategy, here's what I learned. Oh, wait a minute. I've been doing it without a strategy. They learned something. Maybe I'll learn something. So now you're getting some curiosity. And so that's really the idea of a hook is, finding something that challenges what they're thinking. It names a frustration, makes a bold or unexpected declaration, ask a question they haven't thought for themselves, because that hook is really intended to make them go, oh, wait a minute, there's a gap in my knowledge, or there's something I want to know, and this post might get me there. So a few examples here. We have, most solopreneurs think that more followers is the answer, and it isn't. Really, it's not? I thought it was. Yeah, followers are great, but that's not what's going to pay the bills. Followers don't pay. Relatable strength. I used to spend an hour writing a post that got 2 likes. This is what changed. Ooh, yeah, my posts aren't getting likes. What can I change? So again, really trying to draw them in with capture their, oh, this is going to talk about something that's going to help me. What would you post if you knew only 10 people would see it? Kind of get you thinking. So the thing that all of these hooks have in common is it isn't just a vanilla, like I see it, I scroll, yeah, same as everything else, but it's something that triggers that interest, that curiosity, that thing that makes them go, ooh, there may be something in this post that can really help me, or there's something that is really going to help me open my mind and think about my business in a different way. So yeah, so that's hooks. And that is like a 2-minute spiel of something that I have seen 15-page guides on, our videos. If you want to dig in more into hooks, go ahead and do some additional research on it. So one of the things about these 21 steps, I'm giving you a 5,000 foot level. I'm giving you enough information so you know where you need to dig a little bit deeper, or where you want to dig a little bit deeper, and hopefully you have the resources to get you there. But the other part of hooks, and I kind of started talking about this originally, was, for my space on LinkedIn, typically content is textual, just text. So like, what is the first 2 lines that's going to grab them? But we have other options, and depending on what our platform is, those options may be different. So if you're an Instagram person, Reels is the world of Instagram. You can get away with some pictures and carousels, but Reels is what really grabs them. Or even with LinkedIn, it's going to be more visual with a lot of pictures. I do tend to put pictures on most of mine these days. And so making sure that we understand how those visuals can help us with the hook, where it helps us, and be able to leverage those appropriately. And now back in step 16, we talked about the different platforms and what type of content works best. And so this might be a time to think back on 16 or get that course workbook and find out, for your chosen platform, where are you really going to lean in? And then again, AI can always help you generate those hook options. So feel free to use AI as a brainstorming tool freely when it comes into your content. So I'll say that. We don't often say use AI freely these days, but when it comes to brainstorming, absolutely. All right. And then the other thing to talk about is repurposing content. So this was really hard for me in the beginning. I felt like I was repeating myself. Like, I've heard it 100 times. Everybody else has. Well, that's not true. And here's a couple reasons why. The first reason is your posts aren't reaching everybody every time. They're reaching a small sample. So if your words change slightly, chances are the same person isn't going to see it again. And if they do, repetition is never a bad thing, provided you're not boring them. But again, the way the feeds work, you're not going to be like saying the same thing to the same person every day. It just doesn't work that way. And then the other thing about repurposing is you can take a long blog post and then parse that into 10 feed posts, right? Or a carousel or a video. And so that repurposing really is about the message of one item and how to say it in different ways, with different kind of approaches, and splitting up to different concepts to smaller bits. And so we can reuse the content quite a bit, and that will help you with your consistency in how often you send and what you say. So don't be afraid of the repurposing. And then we have an AI prompt here as well. And I think this works best with long written content, like, okay, here's the thing. Now go write me, go give me some post ideas for this. And you can definitely get that from there. Okay. So now we've talked about consistency frameworks. Now we're moving into a content calendar. Do you really need a content calendar? I'll say it really helps. And in step 16, we talked about cadence. And that's like, how often are you going to post? Some people post 7 days a week. Some people post multiple times, 7 days a week in different places. Maybe 3 is what's more sustainable for you. And for the workbook purposes, we'll stick with that 3 because, whatever that cadence you choose is, it has to be something that you can commit to week to week to week. It's not like, and we don't want it to be a burden. And 3 times a week is, plenty for the algorithms in your audience to get to know you. Now, more might be better in some cases, or maybe you really love doing it, and that's fine too. But for now, we'll just say, 3 seems like a good sweet spot. Let's go there. But now I have to start thinking about, okay, well, I'm posting 3 times a week, and I know I need some that are educational, some that are relational, community building, some that are, promo, but not too many. Now we can start mapping that out to a calendar. And so with that, you'll be able to kind of get in front of your plan each week on what am I going to post? I know my core theme. Is there a sub theme or something that I can build some content around? Or is there something that was really a hit last week that maybe I can reuse in a different way to move it forward this week? And with that, this is a good time to talk about scheduling. So LinkedIn allows for scheduling in advance. You have third-party tools like Hootsuite and as a Buffer, those kind of tools as well. And so that's, you can get everything scheduled and, set and forget maybe on Sunday for the week or at the beginning of the month. And I hear a lot of content creators do this. I don't do that for myself. For me, I want to stay fresh. Like when I post each week, I want to be able to pivot to maybe a problem I heard in a Thrive Hive session, or maybe, a step of our 21 steps, or something that's happening in the industry, or maybe it's something I experienced for myself or in person. So for me, I don't plan out way ahead. Sometimes I'll go ahead and plan the week, but I keep it current. But what I do plan is like, okay, well, I post on, Monday I share that I'm doing this session, or actually I do the session. Tuesday I do a recap. Thursday I do an educational post, and Friday I do a relational post. And so I do have that in mind. And then for me, I like being able to stay fresh to pick up what it is I'm going to post in that time. So neither, is right or wrong. It's what works in your business and where you're at. I think for now, I'm still pretty small and nimble. And so that gives me more kind of space to do that process. And I'll think of it when we get closer. But for your bigger businesses, having something set up a little bit structured in advance is probably going to help you go further that way. But I did want to say, when you do schedule in advance, one of the things that's definitely true on LinkedIn and is probably true on other platforms as well is the algorithm doesn't like bots posting all hours of the day. It wants to know a real person is there to engage, that you're not just, dropping and forgetting and not being part of that platform community. So with that, depending on the platform, and there's research to do, you may be much better off if you are engaged on the platform before your post goes live and a few minutes after. And that's true of LinkedIn. So general consensus is show up at least 15 minutes early, be commenting on others' posts, commenting thoughtfully, not just great, whatever, doing more than just your taps, because these are the things that are going to tell the algorithm, hey, there's a real person with a real message that's going to be posting something. Let's make sure we show it to more people. So that's just one thing I wanted to tell you. If you are going to schedule your post, what I do, and it works most of the time, is I then schedule myself to don't forget to show up on LinkedIn and start interacting with the system so the algorithm knows you're there and available. So just something to think about. All right, and now that we're there, so we have our 60, 25, 15 framework. We have a calendar. Now you can start to plot what that looks like. So maybe you do a promo post every other Wednesday, or maybe you dedicate certain days, whatever that is. But now you can start putting that together. Oh my, that's a first out of all these sessions. A little tickle in my throat. Hopefully we keep it in check. Anyways, but now you can start to plot out the month. What does the month look like? And it might help you also think about kind of the effort, and maybe give you a little bit of relief that you can plan for these things and that you aren't going to be just posting content all the time. So having that calendar is going to help you in multiple ways. All right, and we'll not get too much into the template there, but whatever this looks like for you, maybe it's a spreadsheet with columns, maybe there's worksheets, maybe it's like whatever your AI tool of choice is, give me a calendar view, but you can start thinking about what type of post you want to make and when, and how often that means you're posting. All right, so with that, one more thing I wanted to touch on. So we have a little extra part today, and that's showing up and knowing that it's working, because all of this is doesn't really help anything if we don't know the outcomes of what we're doing. And so really understanding, like, okay, if we're being consistent, then how do we know it's working? And here's the thing that I hate to tell you, it's going to feel like it's not before it does, because this is a long game. You're building an audience little by little, and the consistency is going to help that grow, but it's not going to be overnight. Rarely do you have the one viral post that now brings everybody into you. Now, it could happen. You might have something that's more popular than others, and you get some. But you want it consistently. Are you consistently growing your audience? Are people consistently connecting with you? People who find you, are they more inclined to schedule time to learn more? And are they buying? I mean, that's the end goal. And so, that's how we know it's working, but it's not going to be overnight. It's a slow process, and I'm not going to try to sugarcoat that at all. So, but you keep showing up and you start realizing, oh, wow, my audience is growing. There's more people, and you'll notice not just because they're following you, because you're noticing them and you're engaging with them. It's called social media. We get to be social with these people that we meet along the way. So that's the lesson there. It's going to be slow, but it's worth it. But what I want you to think about is there's some things that we can track along the way to know whether those outcomes are coming or not. And so we can track impressions, and impressions is a great way to know if the algorithm's working. That's always the first thing I look at, not because impressions matter. It doesn't matter if my post, one person or 1,000 people see a post. What matters is who engages with it. But at least I know how much of an opportunity it's getting if the impressions are down. And that really speaks to what the algorithm's doing and kind of my behavior. Maybe it's the timing. Maybe I didn't get online and engage enough. Maybe, it didn't like carousels this week or whatever. And so impressions is an interesting measure that kind of tells you something, but really what you're looking for is engagement. The likes is great. The comments are great. The LinkedIn algorithm really loves saves, apparently. So how many people are saving? And that's telling you that you're capturing interest and you really are building that know, like, and trust. So that's, encourage you to, pay attention to your audience, to how the posts behave, and, understand that as you go, it's going to grow. And I think that kind of comes back a little bit to, I was saying, when you do that test with your AI on, here are my last 10 posts, tell me where the content was. You can take that a step further and include some information such as impressions, likes, and whatever, and say, help me figure out things I can do to make that better. So there's a little extra ad for you there as well. All right. So hopefully what the message you got today is it's really about consistency and timing. It doesn't mean every day. It could for you. Maybe it's 3 times a week, 5 times a week, somewhere in the middle. But also your messaging. How can you bring forward a message that helps people understand from post to post what you're about? And for me, that's really centered on a core theme, and then having that persona of who I'm talking to. So for me, it's Frank. Okay, if I'm always talking to Frank about how building solo but never alone, and there's a lot of content I can build around that, and I get to repurpose content. But it means that people who are following my feed have a clear understanding of the value I bring and how I really want to help enrich their businesses and their lives along the way. So that is it for today. Next week, we're talking about a fun one that's developing your lead magnet. And that's really like, what can you give away for free that's going to make people say, wow, I can't believe that's free, and further build that know, like, and trust of the services that you offer. So yay. And I see Patrick has been doing lots of great comments in the chat, and Elizabeth showed up as well. So thank you both for that. But with that, I think we are done with step 17, on to 18 next week. And we're going to be wrapping up pretty soon. I'm a little bit excited. I'm sorry. I'll find new things to talk about, I promise, but I'll be glad to be done with the series. So thank you all for being here today. And again, check the description for links to all the goodies that I have for you. And we'll see you next week.